Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tech with Tiff. In this episode, I sat down with Brooke, who is a Senior Developer Advocate at AWS. We covered her unconventional journey into DevRel, what exactly does a developer advocate or developer relations individual do, and also she shared tips and advice around public speaking, specifically around how to overcome fear around public speaking. Also, I linked my newsletter down below. Make sure to go check it out for free tech tips, job postings, and so much more. Let's get into it. Welcome to Talk Tech with Tiff, the New York edition, where I am sitting down with industry professionals to hear about their career journeys and current roles. I created this series to hear from people who are established in the tech industry so that we can all learn what these individuals do in their day-to-day jobs and the type of opportunities out there. Hi, Brooke. How are you today?
Hi, great to be with you.
It's so nice to be with you. I feel like I've seen you in different videos with AWS, so it's nice to connect with the in-person Brooke.
Yeah, when the For You page becomes real life, it's always good.
I know. And we were just talking a little bit about your background and your career journey, but I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, I have a very wild career path. I get a lot of questions about how I got my current job because it's a fake sounding job title, but a real job. And I don't know how to give other people advice on how to get into this because I have such a chaotic journey to get here.
Yes.
And I never planned to have this job. It's just the stars sort of aligned. But if I hadn't done everything I had done along the way, I don't know how I would be doing this. So I actually studied pure mathematics in my undergrad. I then started and dropped out of my Masters of Financial Maths. I wanted to become a quant, if you know what that is in finance.
Give me the lowdown. I've heard of it, but I need a refresher.
Yeah, there's people that do lots of maths essentially to do various finance things. So they could work at a big bank or a hedge fund or a VC or something using really good statistics to better estimate or predict financial numbers is how I would talk about it. I'm definitely a closeted finance person, but luckily, I came to my senses and then I dropped out of that. And then I wanted to do not maths. So I became a marketing manager.
Okay.
With no experience.
Total 180. And this is all while you were living in Australia.
Yeah. So then I went to work in an e-commerce company. I built them up from really small to really, really big by applying data science to digital marketing, which wild. And then
especially at that time too, like even a few years ago, it was still so new.
It was really, really early on. So I got a lot of first mover advantage. I just be wanting the only people to be doing any sort of data analytics on any of the numbers coming out, because this was way before lots of people were even using any analytics at all. People were still just going by vibes.
Just throwing things out there, seeing what stuck.
Yeah, and I was not like that at all. So it just seemed like a fun analytics problem to solve, which is weird. Then what did I do? I worked as a UX manager. I've worked as an analytics manager at a startup that did smart buildings, smart workplace, IoT technology. When I left, I think there were 400,000 end users worldwide. Maybe a lot. There was a big... Yeah. So, which was really cool. And then I worked at professional services in the leadership team for an AI and machine learning firm. Got to do lots of really cool AI and machine learning. So I've definitely come back through. In the middle there, I also went back to university. I did a graduate certificate in data engineering.
Oh, wow.
Which was, just a wild time during COVID. We all needed a COVID hobby. And then along the side of all of this, I was an AWS community builder, which is a community program. Everyone should apply if you haven't. And then from there, I also became an AWS hero, which when I was an AWS hero for machine learning, there was 34 or 37 in the world.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's only 3 in Australia. And I think worldwide, I was one of maybe 4 women in the program. So it's very, very niche. Yeah. And then I got offered the job at AWS and then moved to New York City as part of this job.
Yes. Yeah. From Australia, huge leap. Yeah. And never looked back since.
Yeah. So it's a wild ride. There's so many parts of that I don't know necessarily if I would encourage other people to do, but I really like risk taking, as you can tell, and I like diving into things. So depending on how that works out for people, I don't know. It's very weird.
It's When you were starting to get into AWS, what was your reasoning initially for getting into it, starting to use some of the tools, and was it from one of your jobs specifically, or was it from the post-grad course you were taking, or what part of it was that initiated AWS?
Yeah, so it really came from me doing a lot of analytics work really early on. I used to use actually lots of Google products for that.
Yeah.
And then I got really involved I realized there was a whole community around all of these tech things. And I did not have that at the places I was working. I didn't have any sort of like tech support network or people learning alongside me. And I found out like I would go to these big Microsoft, Google, AWS events and everyone was so friendly. Yeah. And I got to meet so many people. I heard someone say Kubernetes out loud for the first time. It was exhilarating. And then I got more into it. So I definitely came in from the community side, which is really exciting because now I work in a community role. But it wasn't that I was doing it for a job necessarily. I knew that I was really interested in this and I was just really focused on how I could better upskill and get through on things. And this just seemed like a really nice way to learn alongside everything else that I did. I think there's a lot of people actually in digital marketing roles that would do really well in cloud and tech because there's still certifications. So I don't know what they're called now, but it used to be like Google Analytics Individual Qualification or GAIQ. And it's like a full certification that you do in all of the tools that underpin all of this. Wow. And I think if anyone could do that, they could absolutely do AWS Cloud Practitioner. Yeah. Because it's the same idea of being able to study for a certificate. And I think there's a lot of really data-driven marketers
who would benefit from or would enjoy it.
Oh, they would be so good at it because it's not just going through and seeing like who's working on what or who's building what, but so much of tech is being able to sell that within an organization, explain that within an organization, bring everyone along on the journey. I think lots of people are doing really good analytics and this would just give them more tools to be able to do that and communicate along the way. They just don't necessarily know that it's an option.
Or they think that, it might not be for me or it's not even an option, like you said, for me. What you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that I have a fictitious job title, and I love that because as someone who is a developer advocate as well, and this is, I've been one now for 8 months from software developer to developer advocate. And I completely agree with you on that. It's so hard how do you explain, what do you do?
Yeah. And it's even weirder because even within developer advocates, everyone thinks it's so different. And at some companies, it's under engineering. And at some companies, it's under marketing. And the whole thing about being a DA or in DevRel is just that you're in the middle. You're in between the big either company or product or service or something like that and the builders who are trying to build stuff with it. So overall, we're just making it easier for builders to build on AWS or making it easier for AWS to make products that are better for builders to build with. It's like really going both sides of that. One of my coworkers said this in a meeting. I don't remember which one. If I remember, I will credit them in a comment. But it's just being in the middle so you can help both sides talk to each other, which is what I really liked about working in UX as well. And it's what I also really liked about working in just like a straight up marketing role. So it's nice to see that applied to tech, especially now that's becoming more common because it really wasn't common before.
Yeah, I definitely feel that as tech continues to evolve and grow, the need for someone who is able to understand the product, have that technical aspect to varying degrees, and then also to be able to communicate that is becoming more and more important.
Yeah, and then going the other way as well is so important. If you don't know how to do user research interviews or stakeholder interviews, you don't really know how to get feedback from people who are having problems. Because they'll just reply to a tweet that something sucks. And unless you know really how to dig deep into figuring out what specifically sucks at what time and what they're trying to do, you can't then relay that to improve the product to stop it sucking. So I think it's more about like, how do you know how to ask open-ended questions or do you know how to actually just like get through to the root cause of something, which is a big part of this as well, that some DAs really focus in on that side and they don't do a lot of content, or some people do a lot of content and not the other way. But being in the middle is very, very valuable.
It's so valuable. And it is you're wearing a lot of hats. For example, I see on social media, on different platforms, the content that you create, and then also you might be sharing a video one day, and the next day you're speaking at a conference. Then the next day, so what, if even possible, to explain what is a day-to-day like for you?
Yeah, and it's really hard as well. I made a video about this, like day in the life of a developer advocate.
I'll link it down below.
And there was a whole portion of this where I'm just talking, I'm like, I can't show you what I'm doing. Because lots of what we're doing is we're making content for releases that are coming up, which obviously we can't tell you about. Or we're trying to fix a problem in something, which you can't tell you about till it's fixed. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that just are not very public. But lots of what I'm doing is so there's like really short-term things. So if I need to make a video that's really quick I will just do that. Or if there's a really long-term project that I'm working on, how can I do lots of like stakeholder interviews, user research sessions to really understand the problems that people are facing and then synthesize that down so I can come up with a long-term solution for it so it's actually fixed. And then if something has been fixed, then being able to say what's the best way to communicate that it has been fixed, or what's the best way to show something working as well is always really difficult to do, because sometimes that will be a very easy decision and other times it's not. Like figuring out what's the best way to show a new feature working can take a really long time to make a 20-second video.
100%. Yeah. That's almost even more challenging in some cases than making a longer video on it, finding how to condense it down into that 20-second kind of clip.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about doing TikTok or any form of short form video is lots of people. I did really competitive dancing when I was younger.
Okay.
And the most important thing with that was just to make it look easy.
Yes, yeah.
Irish dancing is in fact not easy.
I
did Irish dancing, I did Scottish dancing, like Highland dancing is what it's called, with the kilt and everything. But the whole thing with especially Irish dancing is making it look easy.
Yeah.
And that's what TikTok is all about as well, just like making it look really easy to crank out a 20 to 30-second video for beginners, but that's really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people will see content and then they'll just say, oh, why didn't you do this other thing? Or why didn't you also do this? Or why didn't you cover this weird edge case that 1% of people will... And it's like, specifically how do you think I could possibly fit this into the video? And it's always people that haven't tried to do it themselves because they don't really realize how difficult it is in practice.
100%.
And doing it over and over again, as you would know, makes that easier. But it's still, there's so much strategy that goes into it.
Exactly.
And planning and just knowing the mechanisms that you need to use to make it really repeatable is...
It's huge.
So huge,
I know. And I feel like when you were saying there's different ways to announce about a new feature or share different announcements or information coming up, do you use your background in math and data to make those decisions sometimes, or does it vary?
100%. I am the type of person that will run a full-on like custom clustering model on the back end on data that I have sourced myself because the data doesn't exist. Because the best thing about working in emerging tech is that you're probably doing something for the first time.
Yes, yeah.
Which is also the worst thing, because if you're the first one to solve a problem, it's not on Stack Overflow.
Exactly.
There's not an existing data set probably of stuff that you need to work with. So it's about how you can be a problem solver to figure out what you're actually trying to do. But then it's so exciting because you may be the first person to try and do something, which is always super exciting.
I 100% agree. When you share your journey of how you got to where you are today with DevRel and Developer Advocate, it's very unconventional. Well, I mean, I don't even know what is conventional anymore for this role because it's so many different paths. But what advice would you give others who are watching this who want to explore DevRel or Dev Advocate type roles?
I think showing you can do something rather than saying you can do something is so important for this. So instead of saying, I can communicate technical content.
Yes.
Give examples of you communicating technical content. Start making videos. Because when you get in a job like this, no one's showing you how to shoot and edit video. Like I work with incredibly supportive people who are cheering me on, but I'm scripting, storyboarding, shooting, editing the works myself. There's no one that shows you how to make a really catchy thumbnail. There's no one that shows you how to do copywriting for websites and tweets and things like that. So it's just about showing you can actually do something, which you only get by trying. Even things like I know how to use the entire Adobe suite. Because I learned that on my own when I was a marketing manager.
Exactly.
No one went back and showed me, oh, this is how you like do animation in After Effects. But now it's such a skill to be able to have, because even needing a custom icon for something, because maybe I'm the first person to need an icon.
You can go do it yourself.
Through the magic of Adobe, not sponsored, I can do this myself now, which is really exciting because it means I can be really quick. Amazon is all about like leadership principles and stuff. It's very weird. If you've ever interviewed there, you will know this, but one of them is bias for action. And just being able to get things going instead of like, it's like making sure you don't have analysis paralysis necessarily. So just like getting in and doing something and having all of these weird side skills in like design, video editing, even photography helps so much. So that when I get an idea for a concept of how to communicate something really technical, I know I can execute on that. Which is really important. And like if you have come from being like an SRE or an SDE or a software engineer or DevOps, whatever, maybe you don't necessarily know how to do those things, but also no one's going to show you how to do that in the job.
100%. It's more important. Would you say one of the most important things is to being being able to teach yourself new skills or being open to learning on the fly?
Yeah, and being okay with being really bad at something.
I love that.
So important.
Being okay with being really bad at something.
Yeah, I don't know anything about front-end development. Anything. Yeah. I was so excited last week because I got a whole demo running with like a full front-end, back-end. I was like, yes.
You're learning on the fly.
I'm updating my LinkedIn to 10x developer. This is incredible. Yes! But like, it's just being able to learn things, because the amount of times that I will be the one going through the beginner documents for something, and I'll find issues in there that other people did not find because they're glossing over them because they already know them.
Yes.
So not knowing something, but then also knowing how to figure out what's actually happening. So important.
So valuable. Yes. Even like you said, for that initial feedback for the doc writers or different things like that as well. Being like, hey, you know, when I was going through this for the first time, here are some areas where I got stuck on, and getting even that... Not only that data from your actual users or who will see that, but also to immediate feedback as well from yourself, for example, who's going through it the first time. Yeah,
because if I make a video about something, best case scenario, someone will see the video and try to do the thing. So I don't want to send people, like the big core backbone of DevRel is trust.
Yes.
Like people trust me because of the content that I have spent years and hours of my life making, and all of the relationships I built over time have been making that trust. So I don't want to break that trust. Because your whole brand in DevRel is just a sort of like a trust handshake with people, right? Yeah. So if you break that trust, I don't know how you get that back. So I am always super like making sure if I'm sending people to something that it's as robust as I can possibly make sure it is beforehand. So if I'm going through something, I put myself in the shoes of someone that's doing it for the first time. So making sure, even if it's like, you know, to click the next button, but it says click OK and it's different text, like making sure that it's updated for people is super important.
Yes,
just
100%.
So like I'm making sure that anyone that's seeing it is having the best time that they could possibly have along that.
Or else they're not. Or else what's going to happen is next time they'll go to a different resource or a different individual. They'll be like, oh well, you know, I tried going through this with Brooke or whomever, and it didn't really work out. So I'll try someone else next time. But if they go through and they're like, wow, this is really great. It's just continuing to build that relationship.
Yeah, it's just making it as easy as possible and making sure, I think it's all about it's sort of like being a good host. Yeah. Like if you're hosting a dinner party or something, you want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be involved. And it's just like if the dinner party was development somehow, like how you can make it as easy as possible for everyone to have the best possible experience.
I like that. You do a lot of public speaking. It is an area that I'm interested in but terrified of.
Right.
But I want to do, you know, when you're terrified of something, you're like I'm terrified of skydiving. I'm never going to do it. Don't want to do it. I'm terrified of public speaking, but I really want to do more of it.
Yeah.
What is some advice you would give to myself and others watching around public speaking from, you know, overcoming those fears?
Yeah. And the fears are real. Like, I used to be too anxious to even go to events. I would have such terrible panic attacks.
Yeah.
I would always force myself to get ready and like go on the bus or the train to get there because I knew I could do that. And then I would fully have a panic attack outside the door being like, absolutely not, I'm not going in. And then it's like a 5-year process for me really of like, how can I, like I'll go in, I'll at least get my name tag this time, perfect. And then I'll leave after 5 minutes because just absolutely not. And then just being really tenacious and working your way up. Super important because lots of people this is why I try to do lots about like how to become a speaker because lots of people that do speaker training are just really naturally good at it.
Yes, they're like, you just do it. I'm like,
right. It's like when someone has really fantastic hair just normally and then they try to do a hair tutorial or something. I'm like, I do not believe you.
Yeah, this is not real.
You have not had to try like
100% or the perfect skin all their whole life or anything. Yeah.
And then they're doing like a foundation demonstration on already nice skin. I'm like, I do not trust you at all. This is not useful.
Oh my goodness. So accurate. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is just working your way up to it. I did an hour-long conference talk on this a few years ago. I really need to update it. Because I fully have a coughing fit in the middle of the video. It's like a virtual one and I can't stop coughing. It's really funny. But I will redo it so that I at least don't have to keep sending that to people. But it's like how to become a tech conference speaker. And there's a whole thing that steps through even like how to write your bio and everything else.
Yes.
But I think it's all about if you want to be successful. So what happens when you're applying to do a talk? You do something called a CFP, which is a call for proposal. So anytime there's a conference, they'll say, we want talks about like DevOps or running a technical team or machine learning. And then so what you do is you fill out like a session description. So saying what you're going to be talking about with a nice title. But the thing is a person that's probably doing the first pass of those is someone in marketing at the conference being like, I'm running a conference and I need to get sponsorships and I need to get RSVPs.
Yes.
How do I tessellate this in a way that people want to come to these talks.
Yes. Is this going to be something that people will want to come to?
Right.
Yeah.
Because you only have to write the talk once you've been accepted to do the talk.
True.
So like getting really good at understanding, like even as an attendee of conferences, what are the sessions that I really want to attend, or like which session descriptions really stick out to me. By being really like engaged when you're looking at things like this, you'll get so much information so that when you go to write it, you know what you're at least excited about. So maybe other people will be excited about that as well. I always also look at conferences, which sessions have really big lines out the door, which like usually it's something with GraphQL or Rust or like machine learning. That's what people are really excited about. Being really just engaged and involved in what you're looking at will help you when you go to be more active. Because for a lot of people, me included, there was a big phase where I was like, I knew I wanted to do speaking, but I knew I wasn't ready to do it.
Okay.
So just being really mindful in what you're consuming will mean that when you're ready, you have so much more information.
Yeah. How did you know, Brooke, how did you know you weren't ready, if that makes sense? Like, what was that feeling, or how did you know?
I didn't have a solid reason for why I wanted to do speaking for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to do something when I don't have a good reason for it. And then like now when I speak, my only goal is to make sure one person in the audience feels like they could give a talk after this.
I like that.
Because it's just making it look super attainable.
Yeah.
I don't care if people think I'm smart afterwards. I don't care. That's not my job. Some people go up and they'll try to talk to be the smartest genius that's ever existed. And like, that's not good to watch. I don't like watching sessions like that.
100%.
But I love going to sessions where I've got a really big like connection with the person speaking, or they've been super engaging and I'm like, oh, I'd love to try that. Or getting people really engaged, which does translate well from social media. So just finding out a reason that you actually want to chase something will help you so much more.
I love that. That's so important. When you have been giving talks, one of my biggest fears is that I'm going to mess up during it, right? You're on stage, it's live. What happens if you mess up? So as an experienced speaker, how do you even overcome that fear of it happening? Right.
This is where modeling comes in really handy, because the worst things that could possibly happen have already happened to me. Like I've walked a runway and the dress was too big, so they're like pinning me into it beforehand.
Yeah.
And then I get out there in front of hundreds of people and the whole thing falls down and it's just me out there in a thong.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that can't happen at a tech conference, right?
Yeah.
Like I know the worst possible thing has already happened to me. And so it just doesn't seem as bad.
I love that.
Like if my clothes are still on, it's fine, right?
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm walking off the stage. I'm still clothed.
Yeah.
And how bad is it really?
Yeah. And all of that comes back down to like, why am I actually doing this as well?
Yeah.
I think it would be really crushing if you were going in, my goal is to be the smartest person in the room.
Yes.
You're just setting yourself up to fail then, right? Because if you make any mistakes, or I want to be the best presenter at this conference. If you do anything that is not the best presenter at that conference,
you're going to fail. You're going to think you're failing. Yes.
Right, because you're just setting yourself up to fail. So think about like what you are actually pushing for, and then it just makes everything else seem so much more relative in what you're actually doing.
I love that. I needed that advice. I think we naturally put so much pressure often on ourselves, or I do anyways, that I need to give this perfect talk, or it's going to reflect poorly on me, or, you really get it. It's easy to get in your head, but I like your takeaway of, if I'm up there and there's one person who takes away, I'm enabling to take away something from this talk, or that they can speak about it afterwards. Yeah, it takes a lot of the pressure away.
100%. Yeah. And then it takes pressure off you, because if you make a mistake when you're talking and you just bounce back from it, someone will be watching that and then say, oh, Brooke totally messed that up, but they just went straight back into it.
Yeah.
That's fine. And you just are not hard on other people. Like if you were doing a talk, regardless of what you did, I would be cheering for you.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like making it more of a way that you could feel that way about yourself, which is really hard. But just getting into the mindset of like being really mindful when you are watching other people's talks, like what makes you think someone else is doing a good job? And then you'll start noticing those good things in yourself as well. It's really, there's a trap where you can start looking at what makes someone a bad speaker. Yeah. And making sure I won't do that, or making sure I won't do that. But then you're just putting all those negative things that you're looking for onto yourself, and that's all you're going to be thinking about.
Yes.
I always forget the name of this thing, but like when you're going to buy a new car and then you start seeing that car everywhere, just because your brain's like training to look for it. That happens with like if you're trying to nitpick other speakers or other content creators. So just instead think about what's making them look like they're doing a really good job, or like what's a really nice design element they've used on the slides. It's like effective
Yeah.
Like
flipping it.
Yeah. And then it just makes it seem so much more attainable because like, yeah, I could totally do that. I could totally do this.
That is, I'm going to steal that. That's brilliant. Yeah. It's so easy to do. Just flip the script, you know? I know you just gave some really incredible advice around speaking, but I always like to end these chats with, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah. In my house in Australia, there's like a big art piece that said, be who you needed when you were younger. Because I saw it was like a Tumblr meme for a long time. It was someone, I can't remember the name, but they had it on a slide deck. And this just stuck with me for so long. And it's been at any stage of your career or your life, there's always something that you can do to make it easier for other people to come through and paving that pathway for other people to come through. So this is how I think lots of junior developers can start mentoring earlier, or even just making sure, like if you're at an event, saying hello to the person who it might be their first time being at an event is so helpful, because then they'll be there to do that for another person. So that advice, but also just stay as stubborn as you are. I wouldn't have, like, I've had a very weird career to get here, but I wouldn't have had any of that if I wasn't just so horribly stubborn.
Determined.
Some say tenacious, but it's just really stubborn. And if I had stopped every time someone told me to, I wouldn't have gotten to move to New York City. I wouldn't have had so many other opportunities that have come. So just,
believe in yourself, even when no one else really is cheering you on, maybe, or you're getting a lot of doors closed. Just keep on being I like that. Be stubborn.
Well, it's like the best thing that comes from modeling. It fully desensitizes you to just rejection constantly. The amount of times I would go to a casting, especially in Australia, lots of models are like very blonde, very tan, bikini girls. And then I'm there and I'm like, if they're getting the job, I am not getting the job. But if I'm getting the job, it's just like a different, 100%. It's what they're looking for. And it just really desensitizes you to rejection early on. Because that's the thing with tech conferences. Like, I have had the worst things you could possibly think of said to me at castings. And I know no one, when they're reading my tech conference application to be a speaker, will say or think any of those things. Like, it's just never going to happen again. So, like, being able to make sure you're fine with however it works out is so helpful long term if you're in dev role or speaking or even in tech generally.
I love that. Be the person your younger self needs. Is that what it was?
Be who you needed when you were younger.
Be who you needed when you were younger.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, because even if people are in high school, right, there's still something you could have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great advice to end this chat with. Thank you so much, Brooke. It was great to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.